funny when you wake up, you've not been up for a while and your brain doesn't work. It just feels foggy and, you can't string two sentences together. I guess your brain is just like a muscle, really. Just gotta warm up a bit. I know whenever I've done comedy shows, the best way to prepare for that, although I never do it, is just go outside and hand out flyers or something, because you're already getting over your social anxiety because you're going up to strangers and you're talking to them, so you're not in your shell, and it just makes you, that's about 50% of performing as a stand-up, is not being nervous up in front of a bunch of strangers. I mean, that's a real technique, which I never really did. I mean, I've done it a few times, it really helped. That's also why you do a comedy show, and if it goes okay and not that good, but the next one, you're like, boom, I can do this no problem, because you've got over that social anxiety. I heard Dr. Dre talking about that when he was being interviewed with Dr. Dre and Nurse Ice Cube. He was talking about how he suffers from social anxiety. The gangster Dr. Dre. He's just good, to be honest, with stuff like that. I think he was getting interviewed by Kendrick Lamar, who's the main man as far as hip hop is right now. Yeah, I like, some guys, he reminds me of Bob Marley a little bit. Kendrick Lamar, his vibe, the aura he gives off. It's strange. I mean, his voice is not the most pleasant to listen to, like Snoop Dogg or some of the old school hip hop guys. But yeah, he just sounds intelligent, I guess. He talks about stuff that's interesting. And also the beats, which is the most important thing, the backing music, is really good. They really get the production on them. It's very soundtrack sounding. Like, I like Kanye West's rapping style. I think he's a great rapper. Lots of funny jokes. It's got good sound. Braggadocio. And then I think he really knows how to put a song together. Great big choruses like the Beatles used to have, big soaring choruses. A lot of hip hop can be kind of, dirge-like. It's just the same repetitive beat and it gets a bit monotonous, where he puts in a big uplifting chorus, which is, what it's all about. You got the verse and then here comes the chorus. It's, what it's all about, really, isn't it? Problem is that there's not enough middle eights in music nowadays. Like, I heard that Harry Styles is like One Direction. It's not. No, it's got not bad melody, but he just repeats it. They sort of him and his Swedish co-writers, I'm sure they're Swedish, came up with a couple of good melodies and lines. I mean, the lyrics are banal, and then they just kept repeating it the whole song, getting a bit louder. I mean, like, you need to break things up a bit. There's a great book about the Beatles called Revolution of the Mind, or In the Mind, or In the Head. Revolution of In the Head, I think, of the Head. And he gives a lot of insights as to why the Beatles' music was so great. There was a lot of chord changes, very in quick succession. So it gave a real exciting, dynamic quality to the music. And then they would get right in. I mean, when I've written songs, it's always based on the template of a Beatles song, which is you get in there. Well, also from doing stand-up comedy, you have to, first of all, you have to get in there right away to get them interested and get to the joke quick. There's no time to piss around. You've got to get to the good stuff. That works in comedy, music, anything, making films. Grab a book, the first paragraph, the first sentence, you've got to grab people. Very important. Talking to a woman, talking to a guy, whatever. You got to have first impressions count. So, with the Beatles, there was just so much variety in their songs. They were not boring, They had like 4 incredibly creative people in the band. I mean, Ringo's creative. Look at him I mean, how many drummers? There are some great drummers with funny personalities, but you know, how many has much a personality as him? If you look at Hard Day's Night, you know, he's kind of like Charlie Chaplin a little bit when his scene. You know, there's a lot of great drummers there. You know, Keith Moon is obviously fantastic. Um, Drummers are a funny bunch. They all seem to be like little kids trapped in an adult's body. Like they've got too much energy for the world. ADHD, I think it's called. Animal from the Muppets. I've known, I like drummers. I get along well with them. I mean, I wouldn't want one, you know, in the same house as me, or, you know, or even, I think they should be quarantined drummers. So, you know, put on an island to drum. In the distance, you could just hear the faint sound of bongos. And, you know, released into civilization now and again if you've got a concert coming up. And then, you know, put a tranquilizer gun, knock them out, stick them on stretchers and put them back on Bongo Island, you know. And I'm sure, you know, you know, they would eventually end up eating most of the population, but you'd be left with the ones that were biggest. Not that that makes the best drummer. A lot of drummers are little, as in Ringo and Keith Moon. Well, maybe that's an element of it as well. The old Napoleon complex there, to compensate the massive bass drum, which would mimic the prostate gland as it gets banged on by a penis entering your anus. That's what I've read in medical journals. Anyway, so drummers, the little drummer boy. I played drums once with a band. I just kept it really simple because I didn't know how to do anything else. But you just kind of get the feel. It kind of works, especially with rock music. It's good to keep it simple. If you're playing jazz music, okay, and even that can be, but yeah, you're playing instrumental jazz music, but you're playing rock music, pop music, you got to keep the beat. You got to need an anchor. Or, well, I saw an interview with Stuart Copeland though. He said something very interesting. Like it's okay. To give it a backbeat, but not to do it in a typical sort of cliched way. So he was always providing a backbeat, and he's a brilliant drummer. I mean, he's really interesting to listen to. But he would always try to do it in an unusual way because he's a creative guy. And then you've got Phil Rudd for AC/DC, who does it in the most, well, it's, you know, I always thought he was a terrible drummer when I was a kid. Whenever I listened to his drummer, I just thought he was awful. I couldn't understand it. It was so simple, but it's his drumming, as my friend Chris said, that makes AC/DC music swing. You know, you've got, because that's like the steady beat is the framework that all the riffs that they come up with, which are always a bit off time or on the second beat or whatever, and that's what makes the whole thing so great and fun to listen to. And he's a real straight ahead drummer. Maybe he wasn't recorded that well or something, but AC/DC would not sound like AC/DC without him being like that. They're a very minimalist band, but with all of them together, they just got a brilliant sound. You know? I like those bands that leave a lot of space. Police are like that. AC/DC's like that. There's a lot of space. The Doors are like that. You know? There's something about it, you know, they're not filling up every single, you know, net and thing with sound. Leave some space, some atmosphere. Yeah. Who else is good for that? Radiohead, I mean, they know how to use it. Space, they're pretty good at that. I mean, they definitely do.